Okay, so my friend Matt and I are making a new game. It's inspired by great action RPGs like Diablo and roguelikes like Enter the Gungeon. In our game, which we're calling Texas Rogum for the time being, players enter combat arenas or dungeons, fight enemies with cool weapons, and hopefully proceed like that round after round until they successfully complete their run. There are 4 planned classes in our game: the ninja, the soldier, the mage, and the knight. But here's the twist. Players won't have direct control over their stat progressions, things like strength, dexterity, and so forth. Instead, they'll have ranges assigned to each available stat. At the end of every combat round, new stat cards will be randomly dealt, the values of which will fall in between those preset ranges. Stats aren't the only randomized aspect either. Weapons, armor, special moves, all of these and more will be randomized between combat rounds. What's more is that the player can bet on their own progress for an upcoming combat round. If they make it through the round without dying, they'll be able to spend their earnings on their stat ranges, increasing the ceiling for subsequent stat cards. That's the idea at any rate. But an idea can only carry you so far. The question now is, what have we actually made? Well, I wrote a game design document that outlines our concept, the game loop, the win and loss conditions, the different stats, yada yada yada. But we also established what a minimum viable product might look like. This is the most basic form of our game, something that will allow us to test out the concept without fully diving into production just yet. We created an asset list for basic prop, environmental, animation, and visual effects needs. Then a mood board where we could develop our aesthetic for the overall game. Then we used a Jira board to get our preliminary tasks in order. Things like building movement prototypes, answering basic combat design questions, and modeling some of the prelim assets. Matt set up a repo for us and then got the basic traversal mechanics working pretty quickly. Anyone who has played Diablo before will be familiar with the click-to-move traversal that we have in our game. Then it came time to build out a basic attack for the player character, and then an enemy to attack or be attacked by. Attacks and blocks work the same way traversal does, just point and click. Spending a lot of time finessing animations is not possible at the moment, so Matt cooked up a very cool digital derezzing effect for when enemies get taken out. Up next is probably the coolest thing so far. Our player character can switch between one-handed weapons, choose to dual wield them, use a shield to block, and even wield two-handed weapons. They can also use a gun, which is pretty sweet. Matt was procedurally generating the test environment for his prototypes, but we needed to start thinking about environmental metrics. Things like the size of rooms, walls, corridors, doorways, etc. So I got into Unity, and using Pro Builder, I started blocking out a very basic mini dungeon for us to use as we continue to refine these metrics. And here he is, our sweet little boy, just running around his new mini dungeon. The problem at this point is that Matt and I aren't the best 3D modelers or animators. So we needed to bring in a few new team members, which is exactly what we did. Here's Eddie and Steven. They'll be taking over art responsibilities, of which there are many. Now that we've got a solid dev team together, a basic idea for our game, a roadmap, and a list of things to make, it's time to get cracking. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next devlog.